Okay, this is part two of my audio dissertation on Asperger, and it's really more of a ramble than a rant, or it's just the essence of. A lot of you might be wondering just who I am and why I have the interest in the subjects that I've had an interest in, and some of you are familiar with Asperger, and what I really want to say from my own life is that it's been extraordinarily difficult because in dealing with Asperger, one also has to deal with a kind of hidden disability. Those who more, let's say, manifest more autistic syndromes. Yeah, I use a word that a lot of people don't like. Syndrome. I apologize. Those who manifest more autistic tendencies and traits, we'll use a positive term, might have an easier time being understood because okay, this person has autism. That is something that employers will understand. That is something that coworkers will understand. It's something that professors will understand. But Asperger, I think there's more of a sense that since it's closer to functionality, at least for a lot of people, let's put it this way, since there isn't the idea, since most people with Asperger don't have academic issues, or if they do, it's maybe a little more uneven. It's not defined by academic issues. It's not defined by differing levels of academic understanding. If anything, there might be a stereotype, and could even be a very damaging stereotype of being on a higher level of academic functionality. And that can be as much of a problem in a lot of ways as being viewed as somebody on a lower level of academic functionality. In my case, most of the differences I manifested were social, not academic, not verbal, not. From a very young age, was interested in astronomy, interested in physics, I was good with math. There was never a problem really in school, at least not on the level of academic understanding. There were a lot of social problems. But the difference is, the difference with a lot of us on the Asperger spectrum is a lot of people don't think we have disabilities. And I mean, that can be even some of the positive views of Asperger. For one thing, there's something going around about the, quote, next step of human evolution. Okay, end quote. Now, first of all, modern notions of evolution don't have teleology to them. I mean, that's been a big change in the philosophy of biology in the past few decades. That there's no next step of anything, that when you discuss any kind of evolutionary process, you're talking about a scientific discussion. You're not talking about less or worse. You're not talking about more or less advanced. I mean, bacteria are more advanced than any of us because they've lived here longer, and unlike humans, they're not destroying their environment. So, let's drop loaded rhetoric like that can really only hurt tolerance. It can only hurt the cause of tolerance, because if people expect you to be Albert Einstein and you're not, then well, what's wrong with you? Because that's the logical thing they're going to assume. The reality is the hardest thing to deal with in dealing with Asperger is sort of having an invisible disability. You don't get a lot of structured support from society. I'm not talking about welfare handouts, benefits, or anything like that, which are certainly necessary. I believe they're necessary, but I think the preferable thing is to be able to work and have some kind of protection against being hired and then summarily fired, or to have, some kind of legal protections under the disability acts that do cover you. And also maybe just a level of understanding from society as a whole, a level of understanding from coworkers, from people around you, and frankly from family members. I mean, sometimes they're the hardest people. Sometimes your biggest critics are the people around you, not some nefarious force out there in society. It's just people who have expectations, but they're sometimes not very supportive. They just have expectations for you to live up to, and they're sometimes when they find out you have Asperger, they become very judgmental when they're not that psychologically together themselves. So, a lot of you might have that kind of experience with friends or family members or people around you. the thing that I would leave with you is this, and that is, I know that it's a corny thing to hear that everybody has their own unique gift. I know a lot of you are tired of hearing that because it's the thing that people are supposed to say. And when it's something that somebody's supposed to say and it's that kind of flowery nonsense type of sound to it, there's a tendency to shut that off. But, you know, I'll have to say I believe that it's true. I believe that everybody has a unique gift to contribute, you know, even if it's through some kind of inspiration for other people, you know, even if it's the fact that you have all these problems and you have a good attitude, you know, even if it's, even if you think you don't have any friends around you, you know, you might more than you realize. Sometimes people are scared. Sometimes if they see Asperger, they're scared. You know, they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, or they're afraid. You think it's you're the only one afraid of saying the wrong thing, but these people might also be afraid of saying the wrong thing. They may be, you know, they may be waiting for you to reach out to them a little bit, and that in social circumstances, especially for us, that can be rather difficult. But it is, you know, life is going to be what we put into it. It's not going to be, there's not something out there in society that's going to save us. Nothing out there is going to save us. Nothing out there is going to change our lives. There's nothing, there's no treatment, there's no program, there's nothing other than self-knowledge and psychological self-honesty. That's why there's no cure. There's no cure for autism or, well, there's at least no cure for Asperger. And as far as autism, I think a lot of the so-called cures out there seem to have a moral dimension to them, or a level of deception to them that I would warn people about. You know, the bottom line is if they discover a genetic aspect to this, then I would strongly suspect that that what we would see is more abortions, and you know, like we're seeing with Down syndrome. And you know, the curious thing is the one thing that a number of years ago some economists claimed that made some statement about crime and abortion, and you know, people on both the left and the kind of pro-life conservative side joined together and said, you know, we're not tolerating this type of rhetoric about, you know, more abortions meaning less, you know, because basically it was a statement about stating that there are less, quote, undesirables, end quote, in the world, and that people both on the progressive end and on the sort of pro-life end of the spectrum joined together and said no. But see, unfortunately, that's not the case with a lot of disabilities. You know, a lot of disabilities like Down, an astonishing number of unborn children diagnosed with Down syndrome are just summarily aborted. You know, that should bring together disability rights activists. It should bring together, you know, with maybe people who are on the other end of the spectrum to say, no, this is not acceptable, but it doesn't. And my biggest fear, you know, is if Autism Speaks were to discover some kind of genetic component to, or if the research that they want were to discover some kind of genetic component to autism, that you would have a great deal more of a kind of social Darwinism in the womb coming upon us. And I think, you know, that's the wrong way we want to go as a society. We're already going the wrong way as a society with tea parties and all kinds of, you know, a kind of phony Tea Party movement that is really more, it's not the Boston Tea Party, it's more of some kind of pseudo-libertarianism, a kind of capitalist form of libertarianism, and I think we're already going the wrong way. I would say that we don't want to go, you know, we're headed towards social Darwinism as it is. My biggest issue with the kind of genetic screening issue would be that we would really go the wrong direction. Okay, I'm actually going to maybe even go for a part 3. I don't see why not. You know, this is my party and I'm going to celebrate here.